All you need is love. In 1967, the Beatles released a song that began to define a generation. Many people misunderstood the meaning of the song to be more about sexual freedom rather than the depths of the reality that John Lennon was trying to promote. Consider this stanza from the song. He said, "Nothing you can make that can't be made. No one you can save that can't be saved. Nothing you can do, but you can learn how to be you in time. It's easy. All you need is love." The first two lines are summed up in the third with "nothing you can do." He then reveals his philosophical leanings with his conclusion, "You can learn how to be you." Notice the pairing of what has become a common aphorism. You are not a human doing, you are a human being. He writes that in time you will learn how to be who you really are if you will practice this one thing called love. There's nothing else that will move you forward on the path of self-discovery. Not your family, not your career, not your status, not your popularity, not even your religion. Nothing but love. The Bible teaches us the same principle. There is nothing greater in this life than love. In 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 13, we read, "So now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, but the greatest of these is love." Now, this is Paul's concluding statement of what is known as the love chapter of the Bible. He begins chapter 13 with talking about how great one might appear spiritually. You could be a great prophet, a great speaker, a great philanthropist, a social justice warrior, but if you don't have love, none of it matters. Life without love is empty. People who feel unloved are driven to despair. People who do not feel love are often driven to suicide. But here's the conundrum. People who do not feel loved find it difficult to love, and yet that is exactly what they need to do in order to feel loved. They need to love because it is in giving that we receive. In Luke chapter 6 and verse 38, we read, "Give and it will be given to you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you." Now, this verse is most often used in reference and relationship to money. You may think I've only stretched for what is called a proof text because you usually hear it in "give me a little bit of your money and God will give you a whole lot more." However, it's those who use this verse in that manner that have grabbed a proof text out of context, because there's nothing about money in this passage. It is actually about love. Let's take a look at the verse before it. In verse 37, it says, "Judge not, and you will not be judged. Condemn not, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven." Judging, condemning, and holding a grudge are qualities of those who do not love. Jesus goes on to say that if we give love by showing mercy to those we would judge or condemn, then more love than we can handle will be given to us. As Lennon and McCartney said, all you need is love. So, what is love? What does love look like? If we think in the terms of those who misconstrued Lennon's intent, then we come up with the Greek word eros, or erotic love, sexual love. Or if we can only think of, that's what is needed today. People need to love each other. This kind of thinking is judgmental. We see the world as lacking in love, and we judge them for it. It sets me up as the judge for what you need, and in that place, I'm not showing love. I'm expecting you to love, then I will love. That's the Greek word phileo, which is most commonly referred to as brotherly love. But the brotherly love is the love of you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. The love between those who love each other, in other words. Jesus said it's easy to love those who love you. In Luke chapter 6 and verse 32, he said, if you love those who love you, what benefit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. That is a conditional love. I will love you for as long as you love me. Do something I don't like, and we're done. That love is fickle, ever-changing. You cannot count on it. There is a higher kind of love, a love that does not depend on feelings or on someone's good behavior. It is a love that loves simply because that is what love does. It loves. Of course, we know that kind of love as agape, or as is often referred to, a God kind of love. We are called to have this kind of love operating in our lives on a daily basis. Why do I say that? Because we are to be those who keep the law in its entirety. Paul wrote in Romans 13 and verse 10, love does no wrong to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law. Love does not do anything to offend a neighbor. And we all know who our neighbor is because we've been able to witness the exchange between a lawyer and Jesus in Luke chapter 10. And when Jesus was asked, who is my neighbor? Jesus gave the story of the Good Samaritan, which basically says that our neighbor is anyone and everyone that we come in contact with. It matters not what condition they are in. According to the story Jesus told, they can be extremely unclean, undesirable, dirty, even filthy. But none of that matters and does not change the label of neighbor. We are to love them. We are to extend love to them. We are to demonstrate love. In the story of the Good Samaritan, a priest and a Levite judged the victim as being unclean and did not stop to help. Their judgment kept them from loving the man. I have found that this is one of the main things that keeps us from loving others the way we are supposed to. We have bought into the lie that Christianity is more about getting the world to stop sinning than it is about love. Yes, we have our explanations as to try to whitewash what I just said, and we say something along the lines of, it is because I love them that I want them to not go to hell. Cut it however you like, but you have judged them as unworthy in their present condition. Their present condition should not concern us any more than it concerns God. In John chapter 3 and verse 16, the most famous verse in the Bible, we read, for God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life. Question: what condition was the world in when Jesus came? Was it lovely? Was it lovable? No. Jesus came into a world of oppression. He came into a world filled with political intrigue and corruption. He came to a people who had all but forsaken the God of their fathers for a man-made religion. He came when prostitution was common on the streets. Extortion was practiced by people in the church, when poverty, sickness, and disease were rampant. There was nothing lovable about the world into which Jesus came. God loved the world when it was quite unlovable. In Romans chapter 5 and verse 8, we find that stated plainly, but God shows his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. This is agape love, the God kind of love that we're to have. We are to love without judgment, without condition. We love without expectations. I've become convinced in this past year that it is our propensity to judge that keeps us from loving. We continue to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil rather than the tree of life. When I look at the things that love does not do in 1 Corinthians 13, I see each one as a result of judging. Let's take a look. In 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 and 5, it says, love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. Envy, judging. Boasting, judging. Arrogance, judging. Rude, judging. Insisting I'm right, judging. Irritated, judging. Resentful, judging. Finding our diet from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil keeps us in a perpetual state of judging right and wrong and keeps us on the negative side of love. I'm still not sure where we came up with the idea that we are to be God's policemen. He did not call us to enforce the law, and neither did He call us to proclaim the law. He set us free to love. We were completely unable to love before, but now we are. In 1 John chapter 4 and verse 19, we read, we love because He first loved us. That is God's grand design for this planet. He is to be known all over the world, according to Habakkuk, where we read, for the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. His love is to be known throughout the world. Not His justice, not His wrath, not hatred, not judgment, not criticism, love. That is how people will come to know the Lord, through love. In 1 John chapter 4 and verse 8, we read, anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. Love is a power that will change the world. That is the reality of John chapter 3 and verse 16. The power of love is only visible in its consequences. When we are loved, it is as if an unknown universe within us expands, comes to life. It feels like stars in our own dark soul are suddenly birthed in our being, bringing a light that awakens and comforts us. Love is not a concept, it's a reality. It is a power source, one that is undervalued because it is not created by the hands of man. Rather, it has a source within each person, one that any person, anyone can drink from and never thirst again. When we love, whether it be a person or in the doing of something we are passionate about, our heart takes on a new life, one that makes us remember this is living. This is what I need to get more of. This power that transforms, that moves my emotions like no other, that brings hope and life to a weary spirit within me. The well of love is within you. It can create universes within you, stars to light up the darkness within. It can change all things. Don't give up on love. Don't let it be a theory you hold in your head. Let it be real. Let it flow. Let it light up the darkness. Ask the Lord to show you His love for those whom you have a hard time loving. I challenge you to go forth and love.